Would you like the floor, please, sir? I'd like to welcome Hugo Brian Porter of the Lighthouse World Outreach Center to give our invocation tonight.
Let us pray. We thank you, God, that you have allowed us to be part of a continuing story. From the very beginning, when you declared, "Let there be light," to that time referred to as the last days, spoken of in the epistles, where we are encouraged to preach the good news of the kingdom to all who inhabit the earth as a witness to your love for us. We declare this day, as there was in the beginning, so will there be an end yet to come. Almighty God, you have stayed your hand thus far, but until that glorious day of your promised return, you have appointed leaders to guide and make decisions on your behalf concerning your people. Adam, Abraham, Isaac, Moses, Esther, Paul, Peter, James. To those names tonight we add Howard, Malcolm, Crawford, Bradley, and there are two of them. There must be a double anointing there somewhere. Garrett, Adcock, Little, Dickinson, leaders who are called to guide your people, always bearing in mind eternity. We ask your grace and favor upon each official of this great city of Monroe, that the unity among them may be realized even amidst diversity of opinions, and that their work contributes to the ways of justice for all, for a community at peace, and for the enlarging of our commerce. Bless all who labor in your vineyard, all who are so gathered here this evening with a matter before the council. Fill this session with your spirit, and we will be confident then that this time will be honoring to your name and result in favor to our dear city. Let this be the petitions of our hearts. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Hugo. Peace. Good evening, everybody. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Let the record reflect that all members of the council are present. And I need to move to an approval of our agenda, please. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
A motion by Mr. Ross Bradley. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Crawford. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries. And then we move to the approval of the consent agenda. These are the items that we've discussed over the past week, the committee reports, and so forth. I need a motion, please.
Move to approve.
I have a motion by Mr. Dickinson. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Little. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries. We'll start off with our public presentation tonight. Mr. Gargas from the Walton Center for the Arts. And Joe, if you don't mind, I'm going to let you get started. I'm going to run right outside that door, and you just keep going.
I wanted to say thank you on behalf of the center and myself for having me here for a brief presentation. What I hope to do tonight is review just some of our goals for the year, our finances, and then go into another presentation talking a little bit about the state of the arts here in Monroe. As you can see, we put together a financial rundown with statistics here. This has given you a spread over the last 4 years, roughly, up to this point. I'd like to point out there's been a general increase in other revenue coming into the institution, which is a big help for us. But you can also see that the administration expenses are going up. This is a result in a lot of the programming we're doing and the expansion in the programming we're doing, which I'll talk about in a little bit. You can also see on the right side of the screen there, the sales revenue's up. That includes things that are sold in our gift shop and out of the gallery as well by artisans that are from the community here in Walton County. We also have a series of classes there on the left that's presented showing how we've been able to include classes and kind of keep that at an even pace. Right now we have about 65 classes and events every month. There's about 50 artists represented in the gift shop with nearly 200 membership, which is up a little bit from the last time I came and spoke to you. Our estimate is pushing close to 10,000 visitors annually. So this is kind of a big deal looking over our statistics from about 4 years ago. What we're hoping to show you a little bit with this is that we're becoming a little bit more of a foothold in the community. And we're finding we're realizing different communities too. We have classes for people with disabilities. We do outreach into the community. We work with a lot of the churches in the area as well. And so we want to share some of that with you here tonight. Here is our financial breakdown, so you can see exactly what's going on this year. Currently, as of, I think this is August year to date, you can see where our revenue was. Under total revenue there, we were about $73,289. And if you look where our expenses were at the bottom line on the right, it's $72,993, I think, which gives us a whopping net income of $396. So basically what we're doing is we're paying for everything and all of our expenses, and we're coming out even, which is great because, you know, we're down there as a nonprofit. We're not looking to, you know, have a formal business down there. We are here to serve the community. I'll put a however on that for a little bit later. But our projected total gross revenue for this year is about $110,000, which is up about $10,000 more than the last time I met you with you last year. And we should be somewhere under $1,000 for our projected net income. If anybody has more questions about this, I could put you in direct contact with our financial coordinator, who's also on the board as well. So what's new in 2019? We've partnered with Athens Tech College right around the corner here, did a creative writing class there. They have handicap accessible classrooms, which we're struggling with a little bit down at the Arts Center currently. We've done some outreach in the broader community through partnerships. There's a Walton Writers Group now that's attracting writers from not only this county, but the adjacent counties, and they meet and are also members. With some of the new initiatives that we have here too, we got a Saturday soiree. There's the next one coming up October 12th, and we're partnering with the Women's Club for the tour homes. ArtMD kits, we've put out, you probably remember these are the kits that are given out to children in traumatic situations by first responders. We've had 1,200 kits gone out, including to all of the places listed there, and we even sent a box down to the border for some of the children who were detained down in Texas. So our community's creative future, I want to take a couple minutes here real quick just to go through and try to plant some ideas and maybe get some people thinking about things. How do we move the arts forwards here in this community? It's wonderful what we have up the street. You can see some of the projects here that we've done in the past, but we have to invest and we have to create policies in order to do that, and that doesn't happen with just the institution alone. So we realize we need to partner with people here in the community. And that equals out to more funding and also more resources. We need to increase flexible creative spaces and more equitable access for the arts and the culture. So how do you pay for it, right? We want to do all these great things. One of the concepts is to introduce an ordinance that allocates 1% of capital projects in their budget for the arts. This means that federal or state or county or city and private support could also be part of that with construction projects. This could go towards salaries for positions that are based in the community with the creative arts, for creation and fabrication, installation, maintenance of permanent works of art, like the benches you see there in front of you, and also to fund including large projects like fountains and plazas and even supporting buildings. So why would you do this? Well, in short, community involvement. You want to create places that are interesting, bring creative people here and support the ones that are here. And this will also, attach to our history while elevating narratives of traditionally marginalized communities. So this goes to even a bigger concept. How do we create a viable arts district or a connective corridor with the arts? I'm going to kind of blow through this section. I want just to show you a few slides about what's possible. So this happened in Durham, North Carolina. They had a huge tobacco building in the worst part of town. They didn't know what to do with it. They got investors involved. The artists came there. They built a whole community out of that has restaurants and dancing and music and breweries. Here's another concept that's going on in Fayetteville, Arkansas. This is a connecting corridor that moves throughout the town that has green spaces, arts, and connects things like the library, the arts center, and other artistic and creative endeavors. They use the 1% sales tax to generate $226 million for this project. This is how it works. You're connecting people with places through transitions and green spaces, and this is possible. Where is it possible in this town? We've got several areas. There's vacant buildings here on Highway 11. There's a large place on the east side of town there with some very interesting open spaces that could be utilized and developed to maybe an arts corridor or campus. You also have a massive factory on the far end of town, which is very similar to the project I showed you in Durham, right off your golf course with residential. So these are just some ideas I want to plant in your mind to maybe think about and talk with you about. These are some other areas with that type of presentation, so you could see the kind of environment that's created where people have walkability between these spaces, and it connects your business to the arts and makes a community environment that makes it worthwhile to celebrate. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Joe. Are there any questions for Mr. Gargas? How about this? ArtMD, how many kits did you say you gave out?
We've gone through about 1,200 so far, and we're still putting them out the door.
Has that gotten any legs from any national media?
We've talked about, we sent one package down to a similar Red Cross-like charity down in Texas. They were very excited by the opportunity. I think it's a plan that could go national. If it doesn't go national from here, it could be a packaged product that we encourage other artistic communities to support in their own areas.
Okay. Now, the 1% for the arts, was that in a general fund budgeting, or would that be more like development plan or?
I think it would have to go
fee?
filtered through a development plan. Obviously, the money has to be organized, and then where the money goes to the projects all has to be talked about and discussed and worked out. This would go hand in hand with any kind of economic development, but what's great is it figures a way to pay for it, and it attracts corporations who say, hey, they're investing in their community through the arts. This is creative here. I want to be part of this.
Perfect. Are there any other questions or comments? Thank you, Joe.
Hey, thanks for your time, everybody. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir, appreciate you coming in. Moving to public comments, I'm not showing that anyone signed in, so we can move to our public hearing. The variance in 906 L CoV Street, Mr. Stone or Mr. Kelly?
Mr. Kelly's going to handle that tonight.
Right.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This application is for a variance. The owner wishes to subdivide a previously derelict property into 4 lots. They have 384.7 feet of frontage and would like a variance for 1 lot to have 84.7 feet of frontage. The remainder would be conforming. The lot with the varied frontage will have square footage greater than the requisite 14,000 square feet for R1 zoned lot.
Okay, are there any questions? Mr. Kelly? Hearing none, I'll declare this portion of the meeting open for the purpose of public input. Is the applicant here?
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Good evening.
Ron Smith with L CoV Surveying Engineering, and representing the owner for this development. And as Mr. Kelly said, it's about a 15.3 variance in the lot width on this one lot that we've tried to make a little larger to make that a little easier transition. The house has already been demolished. I don't know if any of y'all been by there, but today the house was demolished, so it's already looking a little better. Everything's still kind of up in the air as to, you know, the housing that's going to be there. We're just trying to figure out if we're going to be allowed to have 4 lots or 3.
Okay, thank you. Any comments or questions for Mr. Smith?
Would the applicant be willing to do a shared driveway and facilitate only 3 cuts, but to provide for the fourth house?
I don't think so at this time, because everything's still kind of up in the air, you know, as to what they're wanting to do house-wise. So basically, it's just the question of 4 lots or 3.
Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak in favor of this development?
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Smith.
I'm James Wilson, 902 Stone Creek Court here in Monroe,
Thank you for coming in, Mr. Wilson.
secretary of our HOA at Oaks at Mill Creek. We have a community of 72 residents, with most over 65 years old and still driving. We're not here to speak against the variance request. We're delighted to see the dilapidated house removed and believe that future development of the properties will enhance the attractiveness of our community. Our concern is the further development of the property, and especially lot number 3. Because L CoV Street is a main thoroughfare and traffic majority of the time exceeds the 35-mile-per-hour limit there, in the interest of safety, when entering L CoV from Stone Creek Drive or from lot number 3, we believe the driveway for lot number 3 should not be located directly across from Stone Creek Drive. As you drive through the city, it appears to have been the norm to not locate driveways opposite each other. Therefore, we respectfully ask the city to do all that they can to have the driveway for lot number 3 preferably located on the left side of the lot or the far right side of lot number 3, thus reducing the potential for accidents on this location. You can see that if a driveway is directly across from our outbound lane on Stone Creek Drive, 2 cars coming there at the same time, both wanting to turn left, perhaps wanting to do it speedily to beat some oncoming traffic. That would be a case, I think, of where if there was an accident there, there would be no place of fault. No one would have had the right of way. Whereas all the traffic going down the street already in the lanes always has the right of way. So we hope that the builder would be accommodating to our request, or you could help us in that area.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Wilson. Are there any comments? Is there anyone here who'd like to speak against the variance? Hearing none, we'll declare that portion of the meeting closed, and we'll revisit that in just a few minutes. Moving to the rezone at 123 Plaza Tres, Mr. Kelly.
Thank you again, Mr. Mayor. This is a request for this property. That is an apartment complex currently zoned in a non-conforming use to be brought into a conforming use in a R2 zoning. The use in that property is already apartments, which is R2. They're already built. They're just trying to do this for financial reasons from the explanation they've given us.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Kelly? Is the applicant here? How are you, sir?
Randy Crosby. We're applying for some funds through Department of Community Affairs,
Yes, sir.
and as part of our application, we have to provide a letter, documenting that the property is zoned properly, and the property's been there for 29 years, and it's still zoned somehow professional, so we're just petitioning for the rezone.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Crosby? Is there anyone in the audience who'd like to speak in favor of this rezone or bringing this into a conforming lot? Is there anyone to speak against? Hearing none, we'll declare that portion of the meeting closed, and we'll revisit that in just a few minutes. Moving to the rezone at 143 Plaza Tres, Mr. Kelly.
Yes, sir. Thank you again. This is the exact same request for an adjacent parcel that's part of the exact same development. It was just on 2 parcels.
Thank you, sir. Are there any questions? Anyone in the audience to speak in favor or against? Hearing none, no action will be taken at this time. I'll declare that portion of the meeting closed. Moving to new business, We have a variance in 906 L CoV Street, we just discussed. I'll open the floor to council members for discussion and or action about the variance. 906 L CoV Street. Any discussion?
I'd just like to ask the builder if he would be willing to do as the homeowners at the Oaks at Mill Creek requested and locate that driveway to the far right or far left of Lot 3.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Any other comments, questions? Do I hear a motion?
I'll move we approve that variance at 906 Alcovey Street pending that, I don't know if we can put this requirement on it now, that that driveway is positioned appropriately.
Second.
Motion to approve by Mr. Bradley and a second by Mr. Dickinson, including the caveat that the driveway is moved as far away from that intersection as possible. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries, that passes. Thank you, Mr. Smith, I appreciate you coming in. Moving to the rezone at 123 Plaza Tres. I'll open the floor for council members for discussion or action.
I'll make a motion to approve that request.
I have a motion to approve by Ms. Malcolm. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Larry Bradley. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Moving to the rezone of 143 Plaza Tres. Should I just expect a motion?
Motion to approve.
A motion by Ms. Malcolm. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Nathan Little. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Thank you. Application for beer and wine package sales at Chestnut Cupboard. Mr. Rosenthal.
That application is in order, Mayor.
Thank you, sir, as the business owner here. How are you, sir? Would you like to speak? And what's your name, please?
My name is Nick Lalani. My mom's the owner for that business. We just purchased that last month.
Great. Welcome to Monroe.
Thank
Anything you want to tell us?
Well, we just want to make sure that we've been told that the guys previously before us were doing a pretty good job at providing, convenience to the people out here. We just want to make sure we continue serving that and continue maintaining that.
Thank you, sir. We're glad you're here. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move we approve.
I have a motion to approve by Mr. Ross Bradley. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Wayne Adcock. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Lalani. Good luck.
Thank you, everyone.
Preliminary plat review for 1415 East Church Street. Mr. Kelly?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is just a requirement of the development regulations and approving the preliminary plat. It would be contingent upon them securing a sewer easement from the adjacent property owners that they've been working on and securing, but haven't had success in that yet. So the development would be limited to acquiring that easement in order to get their sewer connection. But everything else in order, and we're recommending approval.
Okay. Are there any questions for Mr. Kelly?
I'm not sure I understood the condition. You said it's all in order except something?
Yeah, and it's not really a condition. It'll be something that'll be required before they can develop the property, no matter what we do with the approval. And it's the sewer easement onto the adjoining property that's currently in a conservation easement and a pretty complicated ownership scheme, from what I understand. So they've had a little trouble getting all the approvals for that from the different entities that are involved.
But as far as we're concerned,
Preliminary plat conforms with the development regulations, and we won't issue a development permit until that easement's secured.
So the 6 out of 7 items that were on our list have been taken care of, correct?
That is correct, unless the interconnectivity's on there, because that wasn't a requirement. So they opted to not provide that. The remainder have been provided.
And just for clarification, from our perspective, the condition issue of the sewer easement is that our recommendation would be that it be noted on the plat, because once that plat is approved, then those are, potentially legal lots for selling, subject obviously to the development going in, and we just want to make sure that sewer easement has to be acquired in order for those lots to be able to connect to the city sewer system.
Thank you, Mr. Rosenthal. Any questions or comments, or may I entertain a motion?
Move to approve the plat with the requirement that the sewer easement requirement be noted on the plat.
I have a motion by Mr. Dickinson. Here, a second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Larry Bradley. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Moving to the appointment of the Housing Authority to reappoint Kyle Harrison to serve a 5-year term to expire September 1st, 2024.
It's Miss Makita Swords, I think it's just.
Oh,
Makita
yeah, I'm sorry, we
on our
did
sheet
Kyle,
here.
we
Yeah.
did Kyle recently, thank you. So we have one appointment on the Housing Authority that expired October 6th, 2019. Ms. Makita Swords would like to continue to serve on the Housing Authority, and I need a motion to reappoint her for a 5-year term to expire October 6th, 2024.
So move.
I have a motion by Mr. Adcock. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Dickinson. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Resolution for the Georgia Outdoor Stewardship Program Grant. Mr. Rosenthal, would you like to take this?
I'll be happy to read the motion. I don't know if Mr. Probst has anything to add before we do.
Yeah, just to follow up on our discussion last week, this is a resolution to support the development of the town green and potentially Rails to Trails connector. We're applying for a major grant through the Georgia Department of Natural Resources, and this is going to help us really kick this thing off if we can get awarded this grant. So this resolution is a necessary part of the full application.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a resolution of the City Council of the City of Monroe, Georgia, to support development of the proposed Town Green and Railroad Corridor pedestrian trail. Whereas the City of Monroe, Georgia seeks to enhance the development of the city and provide more outdoor recreation areas for its citizenry, and whereas said development in large part centers around the increase in use and enjoyment of the outdoors and open spaces available in the City of Monroe, and whereas the city aims to increase the walkability and public park presence in the City of Monroe, and whereas the creation, development, and installation of a town green and pedestrian trail for use and enjoyment by the citizens of and visitors to the City of Monroe, Georgia, assist in fulfilling this goal. And whereas the city is engaged in the development of the town green and pedestrian trail and is taking full advantage of all available grants and funds to accomplish such, and whereas the city is engaged in the pre-application process of seeking a grant from the Georgia Department of Natural Resources through the Georgia Outdoor Stewardship Program, and whereas said grant will be used for the development of the town green area and a small portion of the railroad corridor of the Great Walton Railroad Company's 10-mile Monroe Social Circle line, being more particularly the portion of the railroad corridor consisting of approximately 1.5 miles extending from the town green area of the city at the intersection of Davis Street and the railroad corridor to the north and terminating to the south at its intersection at Vine Street, also known as the Rail to Trail Project. And whereas the city intends to enter into a 25-year lease agreement with renewals for the use of said railroad corridor upon the awarding of said grant, and whereas the city intends to create a pedestrian trail with the Rail to Trail project for public use by the citizens of and visitors to Monroe to engage in a multitude of activities, including walking, running, biking, walking pets, etc., and allow for said activities to occur in and around the town green and the railroad corridor. And whereas the city agrees that in the event the pre-application is recommended for funding by the Board of Trustees of the GOSP and DNR, the city certifies and assures it has the ability and intention to finance the project elements that will be submitted for reimbursement, as well as the 30% total project match to be submitted, and will move forward with due diligence to prepare the appropriate documentation required for a second-level GOSP application. Now therefore be it resolved by the mayor and the council of the City of Monroe, Georgia, that it fully supports the undertaking of procuring the above referenced grant and to continue the city's goal of development of the town green and railroad corridor into a pedestrian trail for public use and enjoyment through the GOSP and all other available means. So resolved this 8th day of October 2019. That is the resolution, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Rosenthal. Are there any comments or questions? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to adopt the resolution.
Move to adopt by Mr. Dickinson and a second by Ms. Malcolm.
No. Yes, that's fine.
I heard the sorry, I was jumping the gun. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Moving to the approval of out-of-state travel, Chief Watts.
Thank you, Mayor. Seeking the council's approval to be able to send 2 of our officers and their spouses to Asheville, North Carolina, to the National Law Enforcement Retreat. And what this is, you know, we do a pretty good job training our officers tactically and how to enforce the law, but we do very little, or I feel we do very little of helping our officers when they deal with traumatic events and what they're exposed to. And so that's what this retreat is about, is for them to be able to unplug from here, go there, and learn ways that they can help manage that stress and cope with it. And I think it's equally important for their spouses to be a part of that, because I think very little is shown towards the spouses and what they carry in dealing with their loved ones that do the job they do in public service.
Thank you, Chief.
I move this be approved.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Larry Bradley and a second by Ms. Lee Malcolm. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries. We do have a legal matter that we need to discuss, and we need to adjourn to executive session. May I have a motion, please? Mr. Bradley? Mr. Ross Bradley, with the motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Adcock. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Meeting adjourned to executive session.